3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Yo, welcome back to the Sober in the States basketball show this time. Now on YouTube. If you saw my pretty face and you ran away, that's totally understandable. But with all the new stuff, Sober Season 2 is around the corner. And what better way to introduce it than someone who has been in Sober? George, not Jorge, George. We'll get into that little insert Spider-Man meme. You know what I'm talking about. But he's the host of the Swingman Podcast. Now, I'm pretty sure I've gathered the information that is joining Team Hold as well. But he's doing great things in the Sorare universe. So, George, welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here. I'm extremely excited to talk Sorare and everything basketball. It's I don't know how long we're going to speak for, but I can go for hours. So let's get into it. Let's dive right in.
Whatever time allows it now. And yeah, no, I totally agree. It was like the off season was a little quiet, and things started to pick up. The whole Dame thing happening just like really feels like it set it off. And it was like, oh my God, basketball is here. Like we are here. And then Sorare dropped all their announcements and their news, and what a great time.
Yeah, I mean the Dame stuff did felt like Groundhog Day every day for sort of like almost a month and a half. I'm just thinking, he's just going to go Miami. He's just going to go Miami. And I remember it was like, as these things happen, they're just so blasé. And he was just like, oh, he's at the Bucks. Okay, that's not how I was anticipating that going. But, we're going to move on with it. So, but that's why we love it. That's why we love everything.
No, that is exactly right. And trust me, dude, especially being in Florida, I heard it. With all the Heat fans who are like, oh, we got Dame. And I'm like, okay.
In the States, it's probably going to be a bit different. Over here, I just walk in the office and like, Damian who? And I'm like, oh, right, okay. Yeah, great.
It's even better, though, because, there's like the rivalry between the Heat and the Magic, and them thinking they were going to get Dame the entire time and then them not getting Dame. It's like, mwah, chef's kiss. I love it. But yeah, I brought you on basically to talk the new roadmap. We basically got two. And then as this comes out, by the time you guys probably hear this, the new cars will be hitting the market and the auctions will be live. So that is incredibly exciting. But I won't really go into too much like detail. I nitpicked a few things that I thought I really want to go over that I wanted to talk about because, that's what we do here. And before that, Laird, he did that interview with Kate, the director of product on the Sober Data Show. Incredible. If you were going to play Sorare NBA, I feel like you should listen to that. That is way more detailed, way more in depth. I listened to it again this morning, actually, preparing for the show, and it just like made me that more excited. I was like, excited. But dude, we'll get straight into it. And I think the biggest thing that they did that shocked people that maybe I feel wasn't that serious or that, well, maybe it was the scarcity update and then their mint counts bringing them back down, matching with football. Overall, is that something that you were concerned about from the beginning? Is that something you wanted? Like, how are your feelings on that?
So I think in terms of where we're looking at it as a sustainable model, because everyone's playing Sorare, we all love it. We want to win now. Everyone wants everything now. But you need to think about these things in the future. If people are going to drop sort of like thousands of dollars or pounds into things, you want the people that are the custodians of the game making sure they're thinking past sort of a 12-month view model. And I think if you looked at how they went with season 1, and I stress this every time I mention I did any sort of bit of content on NBA last year, I always said that this is going to be like this is their beta, even though it's launched, it's their first run at it. So there's going to be things that they get wrong that they can then tweak. And I think going up to that sort of where they was going 5,000 unlimited, 1,000 rare and so much, they didn't overflood the market. They did at the start. I don't know if you remember it as well. When the auctions came, and then they just went, we're going to put out loads, and they crashed everything. And they was like, maybe we learned from that and we won't do that this time. And I think that's the great thing about it is that then they didn't continue it. They didn't pump it down and everyone's sort of galleries floored from it. They reined it back in and then went, okay, look, for next year, obviously, we need to readjust and go about it. And I think even so, not many of the cards really went over that sort of 1,000 mark or 100 mark or 10 mark in the super rare side of things. But it's just good to know that they're aware of it to change it again and just make sure that they're keeping the sort of the sustainable model. It's kind of what I've been saying to everyone when they're just like any bit of news come out and I'll see people just sort of not hate on it, but nitpick at certain points. I'm like, yeah, but think about what they're trying to do here. There's always a logic and reason. They don't just sort of put their finger in the air for it. They're going to have the metadata in the back end to know what works and what's better and go from there from it. But I think ultimately it's only a beneficial thing, and it will be beneficial for the long run. So I'm all down
Yeah.
for it.
No, I agree. It's one of those things where, and like you said, every time you talk about it, it's like, okay, but, and I agree at the beginning, it was like, whoa, you need to slow it down. And everybody saw it. It was like, whoa, chill. And they did. And that's the
Yeah.
good thing, right? And that's the important thing that people forget. And that's why I was like, it's cool that they brought him back down because right there on the surface, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like it's lower. It almost gives you that sense of peace a little bit. But realistically, they didn't get anywhere near a lot of the counts that, were printed on the cards. And that is the important part. So when everyone always throws this weight of supply and demand and scarcity, and like I was like, dude, there's not 1,000, even on the football side. If I remember correctly, there's not a lot of cards that have hit 1,000 or even close to. So
Yeah.
they're keeping an eye on it. So I love that they brought it back because they could always bring it back up or introduce a new scarcity, do whatever. Like kind of Kate said that they have tools at their disposal. But at the end of it, it was like so many people put weight on this, just one of 5,000, one of 1,000. When like me personally, I don't really think it matters that much if Sorare is going to take the initiative to watch the market, watch the auctions, and control the auction rate. So I think it's great.
That'll be the big thing for the start of it, though, because I want to see how because obviously they're going to get there. I know they mentioned they're not doing rookies until sort of like the second game week to make sure they don't flood them with
Right.
0 L10s. But I want to see how they're going to slowly drip feed the market again this year. Because now, obviously, and then I know we'll probably talk about the reward pool later, but with the reward pools coming in, that there's less cards available for them to mint. There's going to have to be something that gives. So I'm intrigued to see how it'll play out.
Yeah, well, another thing too is that, like you said, where like year one was betas, people have cards now. The people already have the cards. It's not like there's no cards. Where in year one there was no cards. It was you just got to get them out there and see who's gonna buy them. And they might have taken a little too long to realize that the buying had stopped, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, it's one of those things where them controlling the market itself kind of plays around with it in itself. And even going in that, because it's something I've been thinking about because I've been buying cards in the off season. Even though I think the auctions will be slower, because when baseball started, I'm pretty sure the auction rate was a little slow already.
Yeah.
To kind of control that, kind of combat that, and see if there was going to be that initial flood at the beginning. But what do you think, as far as where the market is now, looking at prices now, do you think that the new cards are going to increase the overall market, or do you think it's just going to add more like buying pressure, selling pressure, and then everything's going to go down? Because I think it's going to go up because all the new mints, the high mints, they're going to push everything up.
Yeah. So I think you're going to see, and again, like this is my absolute finger in the air speculation of how I'm going to try and guess things. I haven't got a crystal ball that I know of. I've got no insider information on it.
Not financial
advice. Yeah. I think we need we need the compliance things here. None of this is to be taken as financial advice. Please seek proper help. Not that I don't know where you're getting the proper financial advice on, Sorare, but anyways, I think when the new cards come out, for especially not like I'm talking like a day, I'm talking like a couple of weeks in. I think you'll see a little lull in terms of season one cards being a little bit cheaper because everyone's like, well, this card's got 2%, this has got 5%, and I can pay a little bit extra for it. And it looks shiny and newer, and I want this one. And that's what will happen. And I will fall victim to it as well. There are cards that I want to buy that I haven't bought of season ones because I'm like, well, I have the money there, but I want the shiny one that comes out. So I'm going to get that one. But I think over time, they will sort of come into balance a little bit more as the season goes on. Like, I'd imagine around a little bit before Christmas time, I'd imagine you'll then start to see a bit of an even level playing field between a season one and a season two. And I still think there'll be a little bit more of a premium, but I don't think it'll be that mad. And I also think that because there's such a smaller amount that's going to be able to be auctioned or won, the cards that have the vaster supply that also will have the collection bonus are going to be a little bit more easy to obtain and then potentially better for people. Like, there are going to be cards where I'm sitting there like, if I go and buy Luka, why don't I go and buy all of the Dallas Mavericks? But I don't want the new ones. I want the ones that are going to get him the bonus. And that's what keeps the sustainable model for it. So, yeah, I think that's my 2 pence. I'm probably going to be horrendously wrong on this and I've just missed something out massively. And I'm like, oh, my gallery's half price. But that's what I'm seeing it as.
It's so hard because you normally, like, if you've been in Sorare, whether it's the football or basketball or MLB, it's, there's cycles to it. And the peak of the market is always going to be either the hype leading into the season, the beginning of the season, and then it just, progressively goes down. But at this point, we have the old supply. We now have the collection game that's going to be coming out. And then you have new shiny cards, old shiny cards, but then there's less amount. So are people going to go, if I don't get this now, I'm never going to get one? Because it almost feels like there's going to be, I don't see. And that's the thing, like even talking about it, trying to like rationalize
It's
it. It's
fascinating.
Like, okay, in theory, it should go up. Like, yes, there's going to be new supply, but not a lot of it. But there's a new shiny thing, and it's just all over the place. For me, regardless, I always buy older cards. Like I am so for buying first edition if I can, and then usually with newer cards, I try to buy just like rookies or cards
Yeah.
that weren't available last year. Because in my eyes, it's like, okay, yeah, we lose the 5% bonus this season, right? But then look forward to season 3 when all my cards have been accumulating XP. They're not going to lose that 5%, but yours are. So realistically, if I play this the long-term way, I'm going to be way ahead in another year than you are chasing the 5% now. So I am all for old cards all the time.
Yeah. And I mean, that's also part and parcel of why sort of some of the things that I've been doing in the off season for it. I didn't want to get too I didn't want to go properly gung ho and just buy everyone that I think, oh yeah, I'm going to want him. I'm just going to buy him. That's not really the strategy I've gone about for it. I was also playing a bit more in the football side of things and some of the MLB side whilst it was off. And again, that's the benefits that Sorare has, that there's multiple competitions for it. But I feel that I'm like tailing off here of my point, but it was more that I feel with these season 1 cards, especially when you look at it now for game week 1 coming up, because I don't know about you, but when I checked my gallery in the season 2 update, or when they updated it in the whole new UI, I was just looking at my cards and like some of them have like 0.5%. I'm like, that looks awful. I don't even want to see this now. And then I scroll down. I'm like, but like this Andrew Wiggins that I bought like week 1's now got a 5% bonus on it. I've done really well there. So there you go. So it's all these bits and pieces that come from it. But yeah, no, I get it.
Well, it's so tough. And yeah, like, because I'm moving up to rares now. I didn't really play rare season 1. I stayed in limiteds, and then I decided to make the jump. And yeah, I've been buying, but like you said, I'm not buying everything. I'm buying quality right now. I'm like, hey, I don't really know what's going to happen. You look at everything, you're like, okay, it's down. It should go up, NFTs, they always go up, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been very selective. I've had things where like I've like had my like finger on the buy, and I'm like, and I'm like, no, I'll wait. And then I'm like, you know what? Let me sleep on it. And then I go back. I'm like, what was I thinking? Like, why would I even do that right now? Why would I take the risk on this nobody, right? And yeah, it's been interesting. Yeah, I personally think it's a good idea to buy, because even with everything coming on, I still feel at the very beginning there's opportunity to maybe trade out of things too, where it's, hey, even if I did buy something that I'm not comfortable with at the beginning with all the new eyes, because that's the way I see it, is that there's so many new eyes coming in for those new shiny cards that even people from football, from MLB, they're all going to be going, ooh, look at this shiny thing. The auction is, look, I have a bunch of baseball cards that I don't even know who they are. I don't know what they do, but the auctions were rolling and I was just on the site and I was like, oh, that's cheap. Bye, 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 bye. And now I'm just holding the bags. I can't get rid of them.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of hoping that somebody else comes and does that and kind of props up my market. But talking about buying, and you said that you would make some moves in the off season. What is your strategy? I need to know, what is your overall, how do you attack it when you go out? What is your plan?
So I think when I first jumped on the game, my plan was I'm just going to buy my favorite players and play the game with my favorite players. And again, like I'm not going to go in there. I'm coming from an area where I'm not a whale that's going to come in and be like, yep, I'm going to get podiums every week. Thank you very much. Here's $40,000 and just go like that. I was like, I'm going to pick my favorite players. I'll play them and then see how they perform. And then you kind of, you win something. You think, if I didn't play Shake Milton that week and I'd have got a Bradley Beal, I'd have got a bit better. And then you get the bug and then you buy a few more and then you look into it. And that's how it spiraled for me. My strategy now, I think in terms of when I'm buying people, I'm only buying long-term. Like I don't want to buy a KD. When everything moved, I was like, yeah, a rare KD would look really nice here. But I mean, he's got like 3 years left. And I'm like, I'm playing this game for 10. I don't want a KD that I have to worry about and sell on. I want to take guys that are good. And obviously, that probably goes out the window when I'm looking at the playoffs and I'm trying to pick up a few other guys. I remember I picked up a Drew Holiday, and then when they got bounced. I was like, oh, he's talking about retirement. That's great.
Sweet.
Sweet, yeah. So things like that that'll come about from it. But overall, I'm with you in the sense of that I bulked up in the rare side of things after a few weeks of playing last year. I was like, I just want to take the step immediately for it. And I think rare is where I'm going to predominantly focus and then potentially look at moving into super rare. But unlike the football side, where super rare is sort of, it's not in terms of the financial side of things, it's not an easy jump. It's still like the goalkeepers for the super rare stuff are nuts expensive, and some of the good players for it are great. But I moved in terms of when we was in the off season and basketball ended, I bought a rare team for the cap modes. I thought I'm going to play MLS, I'm going to play rare cap modes and go from there. And once I got into that, and you're like, okay, so each week you can kind of get like 40 quid come back in through this, and you can reinvest and go for it. And I had my experiences in that. I unfortunately picked Sean Johnson, and that went really well for me. But we're not going to get into that. But of all of those things, I sort of found that rare was in the sort of more sustainable, more sort of the price is held a bit more, and also I kind of liked that there was a little bit more juice to when you won. That was it for me. You're not hitting $5, you're hitting $40, and you can go from there and things like that. But yeah, that's me at the moment. I'm going to focus on rare. I've still got like my limited stack. I have my Embiid, who will always be my MVP, and then I've got a good few sort of filler guys around the limited stuff. But rare is my jam.
Oh yeah, I love that you say that, because that was kind of my thinking too. Because I've stuck in limited and like, a bunch of life stuff. I had a lot of stuff going on that like tying up like all my free cash or whatever. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna hang out in limited because I don't like playing and knowing that, hey, if I need to fill a spot, I can't, or it's like it's a struggle too. So
you're like, oh no, I need to spend $150 on this role player that I don't want just to play this.
It's gonna get injured as soon as I buy. I'm like, great, I really don't need that in my life. But I did the same thing, and limited. It's after a while, like you see it in football, it just gets so competitive and so hard to play because there's so many people, so many options at this point. They've collected so many cards where it's just so hard to hit the right amount. But rare still feels like a good kind of like middle ground that I think, and did the exact same thing that you said about winning $5 and going to winning $50. It just feels so much better. It's so much rewarding. Just lights like you light a fire in your face, and it's fantastic. But it's my struggle last year, and I don't know if you felt this too. I ended up with too many guys with too high of a cap at the end of the season, because I feel like in season 1, I was just after guys like, this guy's a baller, and this guy's a baller, and he's gonna score, and I was just chasing all these great like players, and then like at the end of the season, I was like, oh, like I had this gap where like just like the 30s and 20s were just non-existent in my gallery. Oh, and it was such a pain.
So I actually don't think I really. I had that maybe in the playoffs, where you're sort of in the playoffs, especially. It was harder to get those sort of value L10 guys because half the league has already pretty much been wiped out of it. But I think when the season was going on, I was never really buying any of the main guys. I was always looking for guys that I thought would, well, if he gets injured, he's the guy that's going to come in for him. And that's how I'll play it when I'm trying to buy, especially on the limited side. Because you can take the gamble on, say, oh, he's like $3. I'll buy him. Say someone goes down, he's going to shoot up to 12, or he'll be a really good player for this lineup. And that's so. I mean, I got burned on a few of them where I'm like, oh yeah, Trey Mann for the Thunder, he's going to go great, and then he's like there for like a week and then does nothing, and he's stuck in the G League. But
love it.
But again, I held on to the Trey Mann because I'm like, well, there might be 1 week next year where he comes back in and he's the guy. And like the key examples of those, sort of Kendrick Nunn was the guy that won me multiple rewards. Shake Milton when every Sixers guard was down, and then he decided I'm going to be the reincarnation of sort of Allen Iverson and just drop 50s and 60s on multiple weeks. So that's how I like.
Come on,
yeah, exactly. That it's going to be those sort of things. So they're how I like to sort of go about in terms of the buying side, and then you have a bit more fun with it. But yeah, it can be tough towards the playoffs, but I'm interested to see what they do again with the playoffs this year. But I don't want to talk about playoff basketball. It's so far away, and the season's not even started for it.
Dude, I want to talk about playoff basketball.
Yeah,
we going to the playoffs.
Yeah,
great time to be a Magic fan.
Markel Fultz. There we go.
Oh man, I love it. So are you a trader? Do you trade a lot, or do you kind of just pick your spots and try to buy low and then ride them out as long as you can?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm sort of going in and out and sort of buying and then thinking I'm going to flip in 3 weeks' time, and I'm looking at when a team's going to have 4 games in a game week, and then I know he's going to be the most in demand. I could sit there and I could comfortably say I think I'd be okay at doing it. But one, I just don't feel that there's sort of the time invested for the return is there. I like to play Sorare sort of for fun, more or less. Like if I think a guy is going to be like an undervalued option, I'm absolutely going to buy him and pick him up. But I'm not doing it at the, oh yeah, he's going to raise 23% in 2 weeks and I'm going to get out of it there and then. It's just not how I'll do it. If I end up doing it, I'll do it, and then he'll end up sort of like tearing his meniscus. I'm like, oh, well, that's just gone brilliantly. So that's how I just like to play Sorare for fun for it in the majority side of things. And obviously, everyone wants to win, but that's
of course.
For it.
Well, I don't do much winning, so trading has been my my cup of tea because I feel like if I crunch the numbers, and I haven't yet, I know some people have spreadsheets and stuff, and they keep track of their own gallery, but I feel like I did a lot better trading than I did
That's the beauty of it as well.
Playing it, yeah.
You can sit there and sort of like I have it engraved in my head from Jeb about Wenyan Gabriel. Like Jeb Bush just goes on about Wenyan Gabriel so much, and it's got to the point now where I'm like, am I going to buy some Wenyan Gabriels? Because I can't even remember. I could not tell you anything about this guy, but I've heard it so much. I'm like, yeah, maybe this is the play. Let's scoop him up low now, and then when he explodes, I'm going to be in the money there. But no, it's not how I play Sorare. I do it for the fun side of things and how you do it with your friends.
Yeah, that's fair. I do hold on to a lot of stuff, and looking back, I try not to look back on it because there's a lot of things I'm like, wow, I could have sold that for 3x. I could have sold that for 4x, but here I am down money now. So, oh yeah, dude.
Yeah,
love that. Do you think? I had a question, and I started talking, and I completely lost it. So
that's what happens. When the juices are going, it can just go out.
Dude, they were going, and then I ignored it, and I just forked off of it, and then now it's gone. I was gonna say something about trading and buying undervalue, and I don't know. It is what it is. With the game coming, right? Rewards. We're gonna talk about these rewards. We knew it. I think deep down we knew it, right? We knew it was a thing. These reward pools are going down, and they are low. How do you feel about these rewards?
Are they low? That's the thing.
Because I think in 30%, 20%, something like that.
Yeah, but in people's heads. So when we're going on to this is why I've like seen it everywhere on sort of. I'm not calling it X. I'm calling it Twitter. Everywhere I've seen it on Twitter.
It's still Twitter.
Everyone's like, yes, we've reduced card counts. We've got it in line with football. And then everyone's like, well, what the damn hell? How are we reducing rewards in line with this? And they're like, well, something's going to have to give there. You're not going to have the same reward pool. And then the same, it just, there's no connection between the two. And again, I think it's just, people are like, oh yeah, there's this really nice thing, but something that comes with it that's slightly bad. Oh no, I don't want it now. This is terrible. Give me all my rewards back. I want the market how it was, every up and down all the time. And it's sort of like, relax, chill. We'll see how it goes. And you've seen how sort of reactionary Sorare can be. If it's really bad after a few weeks of playing, they're probably going to tweak it because, again, they have everyone's best interests at heart. And if everyone's like, well, I'm not playing anymore, I want to sell out, they're going to change things. But I don't think, I mean, like when I look at Limited Champion now, and I can't remember sort of what the prize pool was at the start.
I honestly don't remember either.
But I think my one thing from last year was that in Limited Champion, you could win it, but not win the best limited cards. And that was a big complaint of everyone. And this year they've changed it. And now if you come in the top 30, you're getting a tier 1, or in the top 50, you're in a tier 1 as well. And it's sort of like, well, now you can win the best limited cards in Limited Champion, and it isn't just a rare card. Because a lot of people like, there's so many galleries where they'll only play limiteds, and they're like, well, what am I going to do with a tier 3 rare? This one tier 3 rare, I'm going to have to sell it. Whereas if they can win a tier 1 and they win a Giannis and they had a Luka or something, they're like, great, now I can win the Giannis and go on from there. I think that coupled with cash rewards coming in, it's more on the sort of, and I've been banging on about, it's now quality over quantity. And that's what I'd much prefer that. Like I think last year, so Limited Champion, if you're in the top 700, it's like a tier 5. And last year, if you come top 700, you might have snagged a tier 4, maybe. Something like that. It might have been a tier 3, but regardless, like the tier 3 might be worth $10. The tier 5, okay, is going to be worth like $1 or $2 at a max. But would you not rather than the 1 week that you came 15th, you're now not getting a tier 2, you're going to get sort of a tier 1 card that could be potentially one of the top dons. And I think that's the best way to look at it in terms of that with the money. something's you're not going to get them. You're not going to have your cake and eat it. Something always has to go for it. So I think these rewards, the only one that, and I don't play it, so it's harder for me to sort of feel it. I think on the super rare and the unique side, there wasn't a unique contender.
Right.
I think that was the only change. And I don't play it, so I'm not going to sit there and sort of really advocate for the people. But I feel if I was in their sort of ends, I'd feel a little bit like, well, that's quite annoying because now there's only one place to play my unique cards as opposed to two. And where do you go from there with it? But again, I don't know the sort of data that backs up their decisions for this. So they've been flexible in the past. They'll continue to be flexible. If it isn't working, they'll change it. But I seem to be in quite the minority that thinks that these rewards are actually really good. And that's how it is.
No, I mean, they definitely boosted the top, but like another thing too, and I don't know if it's just people that played other sports that are coming to basketball and like see the rewards and they're like, well, I don't want a tier 4 and a tier 5. Like forgetting to realize that an NBA, a tier 4 and a tier 5, like very quickly overnight could really bring home some cash because
100%.
of the nature of the NBA and rotations and people getting hurt. And all of a sudden, like we've seen it a million times and all those cheat code plays that happened last year. It's, hey, like this could hold on to it for a little bit. There's going to be 1 week where everybody sits or, you know, there's all these crazy games and all of a sudden he's the play of the week and just get out.
100%.
Get out there.
It's I think that is a typical football mindset. Like a tier 5 guy's like, he comes on as a sub like 3 times a season. I don't want this guy. And they'll see it and they'll pick the tier 5 up and they'll see like, oh, he scored like 7-7-3 because he's coming on and getting garbage time minutes. But again, the sort of the way in which sort of players are going down and they're rested and everything, tier 4 and 5s, absolutely on the money. One or 2 weeks, you just have to be active and check when they're going to be the guys. And that's the issue that comes with it. But yeah, I think people, it's what it is. People just like to look for the sort of negatives in the short term and don't think about the longer term stuff, I feel.
I don't understand. Like if you're playing a game for fun, like why are you just looking? Like they're literally going out of their way to look for reasons to be upset. It's like, why bother? Why? For what? Like,
I think but there's different parts to it. It's good to be critical in times because obviously if everyone is saying this is bad, it might be bad. Like there are ways to listen to it and 100% you can take feedback on and go from it from there. But I think a lot of the time people sort of moan almost for moan's sake. And they just want to find this update is amazing, but there's nothing there I can moan at yet. So let me find that one thing, and that's where it goes with it.
But it's not even that. There's a difference, right? Like there's a difference between like being critical and like bringing up valid points and feedback, and then just like literally just off the wall, just complaining and just crying because nobody's listening to you. Like,
but I think maybe I don't know again. But on the rewards, I don't know if it's just me, but if I had that one, and I don't even think I've podiumed on NBA. I've had a lot of sort of top 10 finishes, but I've not podiumed. But if I do podium this year and sort of I look at it and I go, if I got 3rd place in rare champion, what do I get? I get a tier 4 super rare, a tier 1 rare, and $200. Like that's so much better than what it would have been last year. And you're thinking if you have that one big week where it hits, now it's going to be so much better than what it was. And Grant, and I will take the potential of winning being better than me getting a tier 5 over a tier 4. Like that's how I would see these things. I can get it. If people don't have the galleries that are ever going to be near winning, it is detrimental to them. But I think then it would encourage you, and that's their whole idea. It's Sorare's MO is to sort of get people to build their galleries better, and that's how it is.
See, and that's the progression about it too. People are like, oh, so it's like, dude, you bought 6 cards a week ago and you didn't win anything, and now you're just like, this game sucks. It's like, look, it's realistically, and that's another thing. Like, there's like the false expectations. Like, there are people that are really good at this game that continuously like fight for podiums and stuff, but that's not everybody. It's never going to be. It's not supposed to be everybody, right?
No.
But like you said, if you place 3rd one time in rare champion, that makes your entire season. Like, it sucks that it all happens at once, right? You want that gratification over time, but if you really look at it, like winning $300, $400, $500 in a span of 3, 4, 5 days, that's unheard of in a lot of places. Like, really, like, sure, you're not a millionaire, okay? Like 2021's over, okay? That dream is dead, okay? It's gonna be a little bit, and it's just people need to tame their expectations, I think, and it's.
It's what it is, though. It's always going to be sort of, I want more. And I feel that they're gonna every year they have to sort of build on it and get better every season. So they can't just go, this is our top line and the best things ever, and we're never going to improve on them, because then everyone's like, well, after a year, this is rubbish. I don't want to do this anymore. Like every year they're going to change it up. Like the playoffs is going to be such a big difference. And I don't want to talk about it, but the way in which they run the playoffs last year was quite sort of controversial. And there's no way they're going to do the exact same thing again. They're going to change it up. And there's probably going to be something that they could have done a little bit better in the playoffs. But again, there's the playoffs the year up. Like this is how it always happens. It's how it's always going to roll. And I'm sure like the guys that have been playing football from years back, they'll say things of where the game is now in comparison to what it was, and the amount of stuff that you can play cards in and everything. It's so much different. So I think that's how we'll have to go with it.
And that's another thing. You look at the people too that started in football and where their galleries are now. They went through the ups and downs. They've gone through all the cycles. They've gone through the good, the bad, the ugly. They've all done it. This is season 2. Like if you stick it out, you figure out, you grow with it. And so rare. Luckily, like look, they don't hit on everything, right? But they
no one does.
No one does.
No one does. It's an expectation of that they're never ever going to get anything wrong, and it isn't realistic at all.
Yeah, and I think I said it on the football show last week where I was like, look, you are playing a game that's a startup in Web3 using crypto where every company right now, there's no playbook for this. Like they are literally trying to figure it out as they go in one of the hardest industries in forever. America's about to drop the ban hammer on crypto. We won't even go there. Like we won't even get into that. But like, it's just, sometimes you just got to be like, hey, long term. These, I love it. But they're not wrong either. There are some things that it's like, so rare. Don't announce $100,000 worth of prizes and give us Dave and Buster's merch. That is
there.
Cool,
we
though.
go.
Oh, my little notebook.
There you go. So I splurged. I splurged on the backpack. 700 points. I think that puppy cost me.
I didn't do too great in the playoffs. I took the punting route where I was like, look. Like I'm gonna try to punt like the weeks instead of focusing on the long term. Because at the beginning, I thought that you won credits every week, and then you won like a little bit extra at the end. Completely wrong. So yeah, I started off the playoffs. I saved it in the end. I got a little bit in the end. I had a few big game weeks at the end, but yeah, I might have played that a little wrong at the beginning. So oops. Oops. So cash rewards are here. They're not thresholds. It's just not viable again for a business. I know you want thresholds, but they cannot afford to pay all you NBA sickos. So it's never gonna happen. Another thing that I wanted to touch on really quick that I really enjoyed was the rookie thing and them not minting the rookie thing. Now, I think that they could have done it different, but I don't think that they were wrong in the decision that they took. You're giving me a look. How do you feel?
So no, I don't think they're wrong at all. I think because obviously we had the Keegan Murray situation last year, which saw him become like the most expensive card on the platform for like 3 days. But I think it was slightly strange to only do 3 of the draft ones at the start of the year when they was like, yeah, we're going to do these really cool cards, and they only did 3, and then not do any more, and then announce that they're not going to do any until game week 2. And now they've probably had their thoughts of the one, they want those draft edition cards to have sort of, there has to be a scarcity, a rareness to them. They don't want to mint loads for them, and I don't think they should either. But at the same time, they then don't want to flood the market, and obviously they want to hold the prices for them. And then they don't want to flood the market with rookies so everyone can get them ahead of the start, so that then it's only sort of pay to win for the first 2 weeks because those guys are going to have 0 L10s. So it's a very hard line to walk in terms of what side of it am I on. I just feel that if they'd done like 10 or 3 or communicated a little bit better when they was announcing those cards and like, we're not going to plan on doing any of the rookies at the start, that would have been a little bit more beneficial. But again, it's if you put yourself in their shoes, they're like, oh, these new rookies are coming out. Let's give everyone these sort of really cool cards that they're going to want. And then they're like, oh, but we don't want to flood the market with these cards because then only the people that can afford to buy them are going to be able to win for the first 2 weeks. But these are really cool. We should do it. So it's like so hard. There's 2 different sides to it of where you fall on it. But yeah, it's a tough one for it. I'm glad though the overarching thing is they've said that there are no rookie mints until game week 2, because then that means, oh, okay, so 3 people will have an advantage. I can live with that. They've paid the money. They can have their special cards and use them. But also, I might be able to still win something quite good in the first 2 weeks, which was a concern of mine. But now there's no concern.
See, I'm in the camp that like a lot of those like punty like zeros and like obviously this year the rookie class, like a lot of them are probably going to be playing a little bit more this year. So that's a little bit different, but like those like low L10 players, like they don't always hit. And sometimes they like completely kill your lineup more than they actually help you. So I'm in the camp where I'm like, it doesn't really matter that much except for like the select few. But at the same time, right? And as I was thinking about it, like it's also kind of a bad look going, hey, like we have all these rookies, we're just not going to mint them for 3 weeks while you go out and buy these other cards. Like that's not necessarily the perfect solution either. So I was thinking about it, right? The way they did the draft edition cards this year, obviously you don't mint a million of them, but you still mint a little bit more than you did. You do either the whole lottery or the whole like first round, whatever.
Yeah.
You mint them after that when it happens, which brings people to the platform in the offseason, which there was none of, which, hey, they might buy a rookie and maybe they didn't get that rookie, but they walked away with a couple other cards that they bought in the offseason. They're like, hey, they're already here. They're like, oh, yeah, this game is fun. I love it. And you do an event for the preseason. So you actually score preseason games, do some special event, do some special contests. You're getting people on the platform early. And guess what? Those L0s don't exist week 1 anymore because all of a sudden you're scoring the preseason. Now you have more people come to the platform in the offseason. You kind of get rid of your rookie thing and you get rookies day 1.
So this was one of the things that I've said. So there's like a few upgrade or like a few changes I'd love to see happen. And this is sort of when you're talking about the future side of things and how you'd like to see the NBA side of it grow and evolve. I'd have loved for them to have done something Summer League. It's just the licensing thing, or like we had the World Cup going on, something in the World Cup. Like it was such a good thing with the football that it was just such a shame we couldn't have done anything for the basketball. Because especially on the football season, you have like the football season ends, you blink and it restarts. It's pretty much how I see it over, especially in the European leagues. The MLS break is a little bit bigger, I think, especially if you don't make the playoffs.
It's like a month longer, yeah.
Yeah,
it's
a little bit
a
longer.
few weeks longer.
But like NBA side, you're like 5 months of a break, like pretty much. And then it stopped. And especially for teams that don't make the playoffs, it's like near on half a year, right?
Yeah.
Which is a long amount of time. So then to try and get people up, there's going to be people that in their galleries only play NBA So Rare and have not touched it since the playoffs. And then they're going to log back into it day 1. And they're sort of, on the football side, it's like a 6-week break. 2 of which you're then planning on, and you've got stuff to do after the season ends. And then 2 weeks before is preseason. So really, you only have like a fortnight off of like a break is how it seems. Like that's how I go for it. On the NBA side, like I said, it's such a big break. There's nothing that brings people onto the platform for it beforehand. So if they can try and get something like the Summer League or anything around it where there is some form of utility to have. And I'm not expecting massive prize pools, like only if you like, even if you finished in the top 10 or something, but just something where you can just throw a line up and jump on the site again. And then that's where if you have auctions coming out again, it then will get people ramped up for it. But like, these are the sort of things that I think they'll eventually change. Because like we said, it's the second season they're doing it. They've had 1 year of data of looking at it. I think over time, they're going to be like, okay, there's such a big lull here. What can we fill this with? There's the Olympics, there's the World Cup, there's the Summer League, there's everything that comes around from it. And you might even get sort of, I'd love to see it change from the NBA to just basketball. And then you have other leagues around, like the Euro League come in. And then if the Euro League explodes and then everything, because I think they're so beneficial between the two. If the EuroLeague was on So Rare for it, people are going to start watching EuroLeague games because of it. If they have these daily things that they're doing that they're sort of marketing it as this, you can play with your friend and things like this. If you're sitting there and you're like, there's this EuroLeague basketball game on, let's load up So Rare. Let's literally say, okay, my cards are going to beat your cards and go from there like that. They go so well hand in hand and it makes so much sense from us that there's no way that the guys that are running this game, who are smarter than us pretty much, are going to be like, let's do that. Let's do that. So again, I think these things will come eventually. It's just a sort of case of them baby stepping their way to it.
I love everything you just said, especially with the World Cup, man. I had so much fun watching the World Cup this year. Like it was just incredible. And like you said, it's one of those things where I think it's just too early, right? Because you can't do too much, because if they start trying to do too much, then they're going to make way more mistakes than they're already making. And then it kind of muddies the water, but I could definitely see him doing it. And I was actually, so Orlando has another preseason game this week against like Flamengo from Brazil. and they're playing here in Orlando. And I thought that was insane. I was like, this is fantastic. Like, I'm actually thinking about going to that. And then, like, like in my brain, I was like, oh my God, like, why don't we get international basketball on here? And sure, I don't know how the leagues go and, what the scoring is like. And if, it would break the Sorare matrix itself, which is a question. But yeah, no, they would benefit from it so much too. And then that even goes into scarcity. Like in my head, and I don't know, I don't crunch the numbers. I think I know what I'm talking about half the time, but it's like playing the football, like you said, it's so worldwide. There's so many leagues, there's so many players, there's so many things that you can do where there's a lot of variety and stuff where you can get away with low mints and still kind of have a fluid market. Where in the NBA, there's maybe 50 guys 100 guys that you actually really want, and everything else is like whatever. And that like bottlenecks at some point. Like at some point, it's just not gonna work. Like at least I don't think, but yeah, I don't know. How do you feel about that? Because that's one of the things that like I try to conceptualize in my head, and I'm like, I feel like there's something there, but I'm also not smart enough to crunch those.
What in terms of having other leagues for basketball? Is that what you're saying? Like,
yeah, in terms of like having one league with only like an X amount of top guys, like it's just never gonna work because everybody 1,000 Mbappes can go a long way versus 1,000 Lucas are just never gonna like hang. It's just
it's a different one in that sense, but they can also do what they've done. And it depends on. There's going to be so many things.
It's a weird one.
The licensing that they're going to have with the NBA is going to be so sort of straight-jacketed of what they probably can and can't do that it limits them a bit more. But I feel like if they found other EuroLeague teams, like they've probably got, if they got licenses with Real Madrid on that side of things, could we try and get the Real Madrid players in? And then you only have the Real Madrid players in and their coverage is only done for their games. And then how badly would that mess up the scoring matrix for it? So like, they're the sort of way in the baby steps. I don't think they'll go ahead and they'll go, yeah, we're going to have the whole EuroLeague. Here is all sort of 1,000 players. Bam, they're all on the market. I think they'll do steps and they'll do clubs first. And then that's how they could potentially go about it. Because I think if you sort of drip feed it in, it would slowly sort of communicate together and it would coagulate. But I think at the time, how it's going to be right now, I think they're probably going to focus solely on just NBA for maybe this year and next. And then they'll look to expand that's how I'd see it. There's no knowledge there at all.
It's like, look, it just like makes sense on the term of a global game. Like you obviously want more, you open up the pool, like a little bit more variety.
Again, like if there's guys that are playing the football side of things on Sorare and they don't follow basketball at all, like I've got friends that are completely like that. And basketball in the UK, like lots of people know what the NBA is. They'll know NBA teams and then they'll know some NBA players. The British Basketball League is very, very small in comparison. It gets very small viewing numbers and not very many people go into games. It's getting bigger each year, which is the positive thing about it. If it's on Sorare and then people can go, oh, there's a Lions game that's being shown here on Sky Sports or whatever, or BT Sport, I can now buy these cards and then I can win rewards for these guys on Sorare whilst I'm also playing on the football side of things. There just seems to be a bit of a harmonization there that it just makes too much sense. That I think it will happen eventually, but it's just a long way down the road.
Yeah, no, and I mean, even the NBA, they're talking about adding like a Mexico team to the G League and stuff like this. And I mean, shoot, throw a Mexico City into the expansion of the NBA too. Give us Seattle, Mexico City. I am all here for it. I would love that more than anything. But yeah, it's one of those things where, and you see it, right? The NFL is starting to push into Europe. Obviously, the NBA, like they've been very vocal about wanting to push that. Like Sorare has that leverage where they can go to these like European leagues and be like, look, we have this thing, the NBA, you get the same eyes, you will eventually convert. Be like, hey, it is. 100%.
I found myself watching baseball games at home and I was like, I've never done this before. Like I went to the London series and I used to go to the London series and Sorare was really nice enough to hook me up with some tickets for it this year. But like, I'd never done the whole like, oh, I'm actually going to sit there and watch a baseball game at home just like whilst it's on. And then I sat there and I'm like, oh, I'm doing this primarily because I've got Cubs guys in my Sorare lineup and I want to see if he's going to fluke this for me or not and then go from there. But Ian Happ, we shout out to you.
Hey, there it is.
Yeah.
How is watching the NBA in Europe? Like, because you're sleeping when the games are on. Yeah. Like, what is your following of the NBA? You just wake up and watch games on your free time? You just watch highlights? How does that work for you?
So Adam Silver has made it a little bit better for us guys over here.
I actually saw that today.
We can get games that are like 11:30 tip-offs, and that's at night. Obviously, that's not in the morning.
Yeah.
We can get games if we see it. If the guys that I do the podcast with, if we see an 11:30 tip-off or midnight one, we're like, wow, we're lucky. We can get to watch the first quarter of this game before I've got to slumber myself up for the morning. Yeah, I mean, the only times you realistically can are holidays, like Christmas games, when there'll be a friendly time for us. We'll get a 6 p.m. game, which I assume is midday over there in the States. And you'll get stuff like that. So there are points where you can genuinely watch it, but a lot of the time it is you have to catch up with highlights the next morning, which is also quite fun. I also last season. I remember a lot of times when we're doing sort of lock-ins and we're doing lineups at 11 o'clock, and then you're seeing Underdog have tweeted and my whole lineup's been killed. But in any case, you wake up the next morning and then you check. I'd always check the NBA app and I'll be like, I'll look for the teams. I'm like, the Sixers have won by 25. How's Embiid done? Oh, he's got injured in the first half. But they're the fun parts of it. That's how I'd play Sorare for it, and that's how it comes across for me. But NBA, NBA, especially in the UK, is a tough one. They announced a new deal that we've got some over here. We have sort of two main sports broadcasters. We have Sky, and they're now called TNT.
Interesting.
And TNT have got the rights for it all next year. So we'll see how the coverage has gone. Sky wasn't necessarily the best at it, but we'll see how it goes in terms of next season. But yeah, it's a lot of late nights.
I wonder if that's our TNT, because we have all of TNT's always been a basketball guy. I wonder if it's
TNT's the guys with Shaq and Kenny. That's it. I think it might be because they came over here and they overtook BT Sport is what it was called. So it could be. I think it is the same people.
See, look at that. Basketball's expanding. Come on, Sober International Basketball. That is it. But I know we're a little short in time. I know you're a busy person. Before I let you go, though, what are you most looking forward to for this new season? Obviously things are changing. They've done some things. They've done some good and some bad. But you personally, what is something that you would really like to see, either happen in the future this year or something you're going to keep?
So. I think it's quite an easy one for me. I'm really intrigued to see what they're going to do on the in-season tournament because there's no way they're not going to do anything. They're going to do something with it. So I feel the way in which they approach it will be interesting because I don't think they're going to go, look, here's limited contender, limited champion. And then there's this little tournament that the NBA has mentioned. The NBA is pushing this hard. So there's no way Sorare don't do anything with it. But it will be how they do something with it, I think will be the cool way. Because I think they can get, especially if they notice that the numbers in terms of people that play the football hasn't necessarily gone up as much that they thought would jump over to the NBA. I think it can be a real catalyst for sort of getting a lot more people onto the platform for the NBA side of things in the run up to everything. Because I think the in-season tournament is going to be really, I think it's going to be strange for a lot of sort of diehard Americans that are like, what on earth is this mid-season cup? But I feel like it's going to be really, really good. And once it happens the first year, I think they're going to go, next year it's going to be good. Because I think all these guys, especially in the league, where they're like, I'm not going to take it seriously, the players, that's rubbish. Because when it comes about and there's a competitiveness when they're on the court, they're going to want to win the thing. So it's going to come from there. So I feel like that's going to be really cool. And that's the thing that I'm most looking forward to currently on the NBA side.
No, yeah, I didn't really think about that, but yeah, and even because they're testing out monthlies and stuff, they're doing all this sort of stuff with football. For the in-season tournament, I want them to do this on football too. Is when there's Champions League, whether it's the in-season, whatever, these cup tournaments, they should have a special contest on the side that only scores those games. That's it. They don't score everything. They're only scoring games that are in that, and then accumulate the scores throughout the entire tournament because it's 2 games here, 2 games in 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So just special contest. You open it up only when those games are happening, and you just accumulate those scores, and then a leaderboard at the end. I think that would be incredible for all tournaments, every tournament.
Because it's that coupled with the club shop on the NBA side. Because I think there's some things that they could do that are better on the football side. I think trying to get the jerseys are meant to be really. I haven't got enough coins to get them anyway, but they're meant to get impossible to almost for the regular guy to get. So I think there's things that they'll sort of tweak and they'll go about it, but I think that if you start to have the rewards pool in the club shop be really cool as well, then mutually beneficial between the two of them. And that's how it can evolve from it.
Oh, don't get me started on the club shop. We did a whole rant. We did a whole rant last week on the football show about that because they're just not utilized, man. If you're going to announce something, actually use it and do something with it, but they're not. So
I can't remember how long has the club shop been on the football side. Has it been
only been a few months, really? I think it was. Yeah, it's been this year. It's only been a few months.
So I feel again, that's going to be sort of something that they lean on more and more as the game progresses, because I feel like it's such an untapped opportunity for them of that there's going to be loads of things they can put in there. People have got the coins, they're winning these coins. Eventually it's going to get to a point where they will have their own sort of listed items that are in there each sort of year, or each week, I should say. And that they'll then update them with seasonal things, like some of the stuff that we used to get on the NBA side. I feel like if you're going to have like the thing they're doing in the football at the moment, where it's like the Premier League cards, and if you buy 3 of the new ones, you can win a signed jersey or a jersey. Like something like that in the NBA this year would be so cool if they have those special competitions. But yeah, I mean, this is now me being like, I want more, and it goes from there like that.
Everything we already talked about earlier.
That's every consumer that's going to be there. And then like if they give us everything that we want, then we end up running it, and then it's going to go like absolutely tits up for it after sort of 10 minutes, and then that's okay.
No,
so.
I think the NBA is a partner. In the NBA in its whole, I feel like they're a little bit more progressive and more forward thinking than maybe like the MLB is in some of these like football leagues, to where like I feel the NBA would lean into more like here's all this stuff. Here's these things we could do. I feel like they're a little bit more inclined to work with Sorare in order to offer those things. Like, yeah, I totally believe that at some point this year that the NBA is going to basically create what the club shop is amongst all 3 sports. Like, I think we're going to see what the true vision of the club shop is for Sorare in NBA this season, and then it'll bleed out to the rest of them.
Yeah, I can't lie. I'm really, really bullish on this whole season. I was bullish on the NBA product when it first started. I feel like, again, it almost feels, I can't remember if it was that, but the cap mode side of things and playing around with floating L10s, that was before there was cap modes in football, right?
Yep.
I feel like that
was the first iteration.
It makes it such a good system. It is the best. This sounds like such a paid advert from me from Sorare, which it absolutely isn't. But it genuinely is the best sort of fantasy game that you will ever play, because it just every week it isn't. They've just like, if you play fantasy football over here in England in terms of the Premier League, everyone captains Haaland every week. That's really boring.
Yeah,
you just do not get that on Sorare in terms of the NBA side of things, and that's what I love about it. So.
I love it. I love the fast pace. It's crazy. It's wild. It's always a good time. George, I know I got to get you out of here. Thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure. Where can people find you? What are you doing? Let them know where they can find you and get all this great NBA information.
Appreciate that. So myself, I think I've got my Twitter is just over here or wherever it is down here. In terms of, you can follow me on there. I rant about sort of the NBA in general and football. I'm a Man United season ticket holder. So
rest in peace.
Yeah, it's been a bit painful for it, but we're here only talking about basketball. I refuse to speak football for it. But that's on the basketball side of things on me personally. On the alternate side of things, I run a podcast called the Swingman Podcast. It's at Swingman Pod everywhere, YouTube, Twitter, and everything. It's me and a few friends. We've been doing it now for, I think we're in our 4th year. We've been talking about the NBA. We do some stuff with 2K. We're doing some stuff with Sorare. So, come and listen to some UK guys speak about basketball and get angry at us for that. So that's pretty much how it should go.
Hey, it's a different perspective, Might
be some, there we go.
Maybe some over the sea insight, you know what I'm saying? But
I can't believe we've been speaking about it for like 50 minutes. It genuinely flies when you talk about Sorare.
I have more stuff written out. I can keep going, but hey, we'll have to revisit it, right? It's a long season. There's a lot of things to talk about. There's going to be a lot of people complaining about stuff that we can get on here and be like, bro, what are you doing? So I'm excited. Again, thank you for coming on. And basketball is back.